Hi everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. 1 month break. I've not been well, but we are back again, and I'm excited to bring on today Heera, and we will be rescheduling the last session with Suhu, probably in another 2 weeks or so. All right. So I'm not going to talk very much about myself. Let's bring on Heera Singh. Hi Heera.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very fine. I'm very fine. Thanks for having me on your show.
Saying yes. Gosh, what happened?
I don't know.
Thank you for
Something
saying
happened.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm using a new laptop. I hope that doesn't impact the connection and all that, but trial and error. Yeah. So
No, I can hear you very
I see
clearly.
a whole bunch of books behind you.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes.
great.
I need to throw them away because I've read them and I don't need them anymore, but I just keep them for the sake of keeping them. And
You keep
sometimes
them for the sake of taking them.
it gives my room. This is my room. This is where I do my work and so on. So it gives my room a little bit of credibility when you have books.
It makes you look very smart, but then I don't think you need help with that. You're already very smart.
No, I'm not smart. It's just that, well, this was the books time, long time ago. When I used to go to shopping malls, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
I will definitely go to the bookstore. That's for sure. That's for stop. Just to look at books, what is the latest, buy them, and so on. Now, I don't even go into any bookstore anymore because whatever information I want, I just get it from the internet. Unless
Online.
somebody actually recommends a book and says,
Mm-hmm.
this book is good and so on, then I read. But most of my reading is through the internet. That's all. So these books are all
But it's nice
motivational books.
to it's nice
What's
to
that?
hold a book, right? I
Yeah,
said it's
yeah,
nice to hold a book and feel it, and I don't know, well.
exactly. So my children are asking me to read autobiographies and things like that, which I should. Actually, I should.
Yeah, yeah.
But I must get into that habit, and they want to buy me this, the digital kinds of copies and so on. But I've not made that transition as yet. Let's see, Cheryl. Let's see. I'm still old-fashioned. I like that book with my hands and so on.
Same, same. Even me, I prefer having a hard copy book, and I think hard copy books still have a place in our world, definitely. So
That's
let's
good.
go into getting to know you a little bit more beyond your books, right? So
Okay.
this is something I just found out. I didn't know this until I went into a deep dive into Heera Singh, and
Mhm.
I found out. I don't know whether the right way to say it is you are a colonel or you were, because once you're in the army, you're always in the army, right?
Well, I was a colonel in the army, but anybody who leaves the army is allowed to use his rank. But you must put it,
Correct.
if it's in writing, you put it retired. So in my
Mm,
case, my colonel retired Heera Singh. So I don't use it. I must say, when I started this business and so on, I found it did not actually add value to me because
mm,
there were people who said, "Okay, you're in the army, so what value can you add to the private sector, to what our requirements and so on?" So I said, "Okay, what I'll do is I'll keep quiet. If it's going to add value to me, I'll say who I am in terms of I was ex-army veteran from the army with the rank of colonel. If not, I'll just keep shut."
so I mean, tell me about this, right? So talking about you being a colonel, right? How has that impacted your entire life journey being in the army? I'm sure that experience has an impact in your life and also in the career in what you do, right?
Oh, definitely, Cheryl. Let's put
Talk a
it this
little
way.
bit about that.
I spent at least about 18 years in the army, and I have no regrets. It was great training for me and so on. The only problem with the army is that you're in your own world. Everything is around the army. There's
Mm,
very little interaction with the outside world, private sector, and things like that. So I was in my little world. I was happy, nothing wrong with it, and so on, until I had the opportunity to serve the United Nations headquarters in New York City. So when I went there for 2 years, I suddenly went into another world. And that was where I sort of like got an inclination of the fact that maybe I wanted new challenges in my life. I was happy with the army, but I felt that there was something in me where I could do better and so on. And I had a good appraisal during my New York stint. They liked me very much and so on. So suddenly I looked at myself, hey, I'm okay, I knew I was okay, but now I've gone to another world and they're telling me I'm okay. So that sort of motivated me to think
Like
about
a
leaving.
validation.
Yes, exactly. So you get validation from two worlds, one, the army world, and now from the United Nations world. And so let's put the seeds of me leaving the service started there. And then a few other things, circumstances, and so on. And then I left, but not on a bad note or whatever. I was very happy. I
Mhm.
left on a good note and so on. And coming back to your question, how does it help me in my career? Oh, very, very much, Cheryl. Because the army has molded me into the person I am today. I always give credit to the army. Hey, for example, in terms of discipline, I'm a very disciplined person. My children don't like that part of me,
Imagine.
but it's something that I have. It's in me. It's in my DNA. I will continue being like
Yeah.
that and so on. But at the same time, confidence, when you stand in front of a crowd, having that confidence. The army teaches you that because the army leadership is critical in the army. Everything is
Mhm.
all about leadership. You go to war, you can't have a discussion and say, listen, guys, shall we attack this hill or that hill? You can't do that. You've got to think, you've got to make the decisions, and you've got to
Correct.
turn them into battle and so on. So, to put a long story short, I'm grateful to the army because the army has molded me and it has definitely prepared me for the outside world, although
Mhm.
not without its problems also.
Definitely, definitely. So you talk about confidence and leadership, right? So let's go a bit deeper into that. How you talked about how you, I mean, you cannot like hesitate. You need to make decisions almost immediately, and you need to be a leader in. I mean, depending on the circumstance, to be a leader, you have to make decisions. And how has that added a bit more to your, because you're a trainer, you're a writer, and we're going to go deeper into that as well in a short while. How does that help you when it comes to confidence, for example, for yourself, and also how you do that with other people, your participants and the ecosystem that you're in?
Yeah, so it's see once that confidence thing is in your DNA, it helps a lot. In the sense you're confident enough to make a decision. Many people do not want to make a decision because that's the easier option, and that's the worst option to me. My view is
Mm,
that, for example, insofar as decision making, make a decision, but then monitor it. If it's not
yeah,
going according to plan, then you can modify it, change it, and so on. But not making a decision is the easy option, but is the worst option because whatever that you wanted to do, somebody else could have done, somebody else could have done it better, and so on. And talking about leadership, yes, it helps because when I stand in front of a crowd and I talk about my military experiences and the way I stand and the way I conducted and so on and tell my military stories and so on, they like it very much because I had operational experience, for example. I have not been directly in combat, but I have been very close to combat situations. I have seen how difficult it is. I have seen people who losing their legs and so on.
mm,
So in that sense, I've gone through a lot of negative situations, but in an overall context, it has made me a better person. I have had that experience. I have had corporate world experience, and when it's combined, I think it shows as I stand in front of a crowd. It definitely shows. And when they see a confident trainer, that in itself helps because a confident person is usually somebody they will associate with somebody who's knowledgeable, who knows his
correct.
stuff. That's why he's confident, for example.
Interesting, very interesting. So I like what you said about not making a decision is a decision, because a lot of people just assume, hey, if I stay back and I don't make a decision, then I'm safe.
Exactly. Many people say, they procrastinate on that decision because it's a difficult decision,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to me, that's not good because waiting will not necessarily, or time will not necessarily make you make a better decision. Rather, make that decision. And I will tell you also, Cheryl, I have many times made bad decisions.
Yeah.
I'll tell
Of
you.
course.
But then that's part of life, If you want to make every time you want to make correct decisions, that's when you procrastinate. That's when you don't want to make a
Mm.
decision. I take the risk. I make a decision, but as I said, I monitor. As I implement the decision, and if it's not going according to plan, I modify it, change it, and so on. Otherwise, I'll just look back at myself and say, that was a bad decision. Just move on. That's it.
Yeah. I think sometimes our sense of wanting to be too perfect makes us procrastinate and not make a decision, which makes it even worse, right? Because you're stagnant.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not moving
exactly.
forward at all.
Yeah, many of us are like that. I want to make perfect decisions and
Yeah.
always good decisions, but life is not like that. I wish life were like that and so on, but it's not like that. So I've learned that it's better to make a decision. But as I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
the price I've had to pay is the fact that I have made many bad decisions. But in an
Yeah.
overall context, I have made many better, and if I may use the word, more effective decisions because they were timely rather than as compared to bad decisions.
Correct. Correct. So let's delve back. Let's rewind further. So we've talked about your army experience, right? So what
Mhm.
was it like growing up? Who was Hira as a child? What kind of
Oh,
person were you?
okay. I had a normal childhood, nothing different. I grew up in Malacca. I didn't come from, my parents, my father was an estate conductor, so we were not well to do, but we had
Mm.
3 meals every day and so on. And the other thing is, I have 10 siblings. That includes me, 10
Wow.
siblings. Can you imagine? 10
10.
siblings, yeah. Yes, 10 siblings. And sadly,
Big
a year
family.
and a half ago, my elder sister passed away, but still 9 of us are still around and so on.
Mm, so sad.
And it was fun because we always had friends within the family. We could play with each other, jump around with each other. I didn't need to go out there to find friends, although I did.
Yeah.
We go out to find friends and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
on. My schooling, nothing major except that I was very good in sports. So when I was in secondary school, I took part in a lot of sports. Did very well. Any sport where you use a tool, for example, hockey, tennis, squash, golf, where you use a tool, I'm very good. I don't know why. But give me football where you don't use the tool, you use your legs. I'm not so good, you know. So I did very well there in sports and so on. Academically, I was not the best. I'm one of
Mm.
those guys who was always in what we call B class. The guys who were
Yeah.
brainy but never studied. They had different priorities in life. So academically, I was not academically inclined and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did reasonably well and so on in school and so on. And then came the life changing moment when I applied to go to the university and I got a place. But my dad told me, well, I can't afford to send you to university because
Mm.
I had two of my eldest brothers in university. And he said I can't afford to send you to university. Maybe you should look for other options. And that's when my brother-in-law, who was in the military, he's passed away anyway. So he looked at me and he said, "Well, you can consider the military as an option." Now, when you're a 19-year-old man at that time, you know, when I heard that, oh, the army was an option, I was thinking, why not? I don't have to study anymore. I get my pay. The army looks like fun. I saw
Yeah.
combat on TV and I thought life was exciting. You get a gun and you get a license to shoot people and things like that. And that's how I joined the army. But I have no regrets. I joined the army. And just for information, I was sent to the Indian Military Academy in India for 2 years.
Ah.
I had
Wow.
initial training here for 6 months. And then together with three other Malaysians, we were the selected few. We were sent to the Indian Military Academy for their 2 years training. And that was a wonderful, wonderful experience because I mean, if I may say so, I made the transition from being a boy to a man in that
Mm.
2 years. And I was also, if I may say so, here, I was privileged to have done my training there because there are only 17 people in Malaysia who have been trained in the Indian Military Academy. And just to tell you some of them, our previous late Prime Minister Tun Hussein On was trained there. The present Sultan of Kedah was trained there. Tengku Mahkota Johor, TMJ,
Mm.
was trained
TMJ.
there. Yes,
Ah.
and a string of other prominent people were trained there. So it was a privilege to have been trained there. And after I came back, I served in the Malaysian Army and so on, go up in rank and so on. It was good. I enjoyed the life and so on, nothing fancy. And I also saw operational duties because those days, Cheryl, we had this insurgency problem in Thailand and Malaysia at the border.
Correct.
So we had these communist insurgents. So we actually had to go for operations in the jungles and so on. Where, as I said, I didn't directly see combat, but I was in the vicinity of combat situations and so on. So that was it as far as my childhood was concerned and the military was concerned until I left. Perhaps you may want to ask me questions this side or about my childhood.
So, what are like talking about going? You said that only a selected people went to India, right? So it wasn't a given where everyone who joined the army went. So, what was their process like, and how did it feel? Because here you are, you started with, okay, I've got university options now, but I can't go because of my limitation or the resources, right? And then your brother-in-law comes and says, hey, you can join the army. Then you join the army, and then you get this opportunity, and it's like premium, right? Special, right? Because it's like not everybody gets to go. Of course,
That's
probably, I don't know if you knew then who you're going to be with at the, in India, like the local Malaysians that went there, like TMJ. Did you know that back then as you were going?
no, no, because we were selected. Okay, we went through a selection process. So we were
Yeah.
selected out of about 150 people. Only four of us were selected to go to India. But just for information, Malaysia also sends what we call officer cadets to
Ah,
Sandhurst in the UK. We also send to Port C in Australia. We
I
also send to
see.
Pakistan. And now I believe we are also sending some to the US for training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that time, when we were chosen to go to India, that was definitely an honor and a privilege because we were the selected four out of 150 candidates. And the training there was really, if I may say so, was world-class training. And
Yeah.
every one of us, when we meet, we always talk about it and we say it molded us into better people, better individuals, and so on. Or it started my career in the
So
army.
what is
Yeah.
one thing you think you took back?
One thing I took back from the Indian Military Academy.
Yeah. One thing that you took back
That's a
that you
difficult
feel
question.
like is so valuable.
Pride. I think pride in the military uniform and the honor to be able to serve the country and to be
Mm.
able to be there to do my role in terms in wartime to
Mm-hmm.
save or to at least protect the sovereignty of this country. And I write a lot of articles on this because I always feel
Yeah.
that people take the military for granted. And I don't like that. I say we are here to protect the country so that everybody can sleep well at night.
At
Right
midnight.
now, Cheryl, right now, there are thousands of young men and women out there in the jungles, on the high seas, and in the air doing their duty to protect this country from any kind of threat. Now, nobody sees it because this is all in isolated places, it's done in secrecy and so on. But it's something that I take pride in. I did my share of protecting this country. and that's something that makes me very proud. And just for information, why do I say that? Because in the Indian Military Academy, the motto is that the honor and safety of your country comes first, always and every
Mm.
time. The
Yeah.
safety and welfare of the men you command come next. Your own safety and welfare comes last,
Must.
always and every time. No, it's a really inspiring motto, and I mean that is something that motto sort of taught me a lot of things, but that's something that I really took back and practiced it in my life and so
Very, very uplifting. And I think it's very important for people to understand that, because we live in a world where everything is about the I rather than the we, especially now.
on.
No one gets left behind. It's like forgotten on so many aspects. And I think the pandemic kind of brought that back, the
Yeah,
collaboration and getting people back together
yeah,
and not just working in silo. So I think,
yeah. And the pandemic brought up a very good one was the doctors and the nurses. I mean, the amount of sacrifices they were making.
yeah,
Suddenly, everybody
for
appreciated.
others.
But before COVID, nobody appreciated them. But here,
Yes,
they are
sadly.
wonderful. And can you imagine during COVID, Cheryl, you go there, even doctor, you're going to hospital every day, you may catch
Yeah,
that
yeah,
virus.
yeah,
Eh, That's a terrible feeling. And you got children at home, you wonder whether you bring the virus back to your children.
yeah, yeah.
That's something like what we in the military feel because we are isolated somewhere out there. We may
Mm,
be leave our children
correct.
behind, and people don't see that. But let me assure you, we make very many sacrifices uh, to protect this country. And I
Correct.
think that should not be taken for granted. We should be appreciated more.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think we need to give recognition and appreciation where it's due, and we don't often do that. Before I go to my next question, it relates back to what you talked about you talking about the army and in what you write and things like that. I've seen some articles in NST and things like that. Before
Mhm.
that, just want to shout out to Tila. Tila said, "Wow, listening to Hira, truly like his name. He's a diamond." I've spoken to so many people. There's so many things to say about you. I was like, I didn't know that they know you that well, and everyone has had an experience with you. And Andreas was saying today, um, I said, I'm so honored you said yes to me, and he's like, I am so honored that he was my student. So we are like kind of trying to take a little bit of Hira and put in our, our portfolio per se.
Well, these are all my teachers. And Andres, if he feels that way, that's good because I attended his NLP course and
Yeah,
so on, and I
yeah,
learned from him and so on. So I think that's good. We can learn from everybody. He's got his area of
definitely.
expertise which I don't have and things like that. And the fact that if people know me and so on, I'm happy. It makes me feel
Yeah.
good.
Your branding is working real well.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Although
and and yeah, go
so
ahead.
I must say, you'll be surprised, Cheryl. Actually, I'm an introvert naturally.
Mm.
But put me on a stage and I got a
You come to
switch
life.
and I can become an extrovert. So people, when they see me there and they think, oh, this guy. But once I finish, I'm quiet. I just like, if I could, I'd slip away and so on. I don't want to meet up with people or anything like, or if you have 10 people in the table and having a conversation, I'll be most of the time the quiet one.
I'm not surprised because honestly, when we first met during the training, right, with
Mhm.
Vyasa and Yi,
Yeah.
and I mean, of course, we've guys, we've never met face to face. Me and Hira, we need to. We've never met. We've only met behind the screen so far. And I think I met Hira in 2020, I think,
Yeah.
2020 during the
Yeah.
pandemic. Yeah, during the
Yeah.
pandemic. And when you were sitting in that training, by uh, I exactly thought that you were so quiet and you're not saying anything. You're like, what are these people saying? Do they know what they're talking about? At first I was like a bit, and I told Vyasa, I was like, I'm a bit nervous, because we got all these like extremely highly experienced trainers sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I don't know whether I can bring any value to y'all. It was like one of my first few trainings with such experienced people, and that's why I shared on LinkedIn post, right? I said that that humility that you talk about, and when you say that you can learn from anyone, I think you show that in your actions and in those encounters I've had with you, and when you speak, and when you share your book, it's there, it shows in your actions, and I love that about you, because for someone so experienced, right, you still can say, I don't know everything, and I've got a lot more to learn.
Yeah. You making me embarrassed now by saying all those nice things, Cheryl. But anyway, I don't want to go deeper into it, but I like to attend courses and learn. And let me put it this way, you did very well during that course and so on. And why?
Thank you.
Because you all were the experts. I mean, I didn't have any knowledge about virtual training, how to conduct it and so on. And not only did I attend your course, I actually attended two other courses and so on. So I think one of the things that, I mean, for those listening and so on, never be afraid to say I do
Yeah,
not know, and say
correct.
I want to learn. Yes, like you say, Cheryl, when you saw me, okay, I'm this trainer already established, but I'm, if I may use the word without sounding arrogant, humble enough to say yes, but I don't know about this, and I want you to teach me.
Mm.
And I think that's important.
That's very important, guys. I hope y'all are listening at any stage you're at. There's always more to learn. And sometimes, because I used to work with very young people, they feel like, I already know this. Why should I sit here in this classroom anymore? Wherever you go, right, no matter how the delivery is, there's always something you can learn. And we were talking about this earlier, right? Conversations, Hira, we're talking about, and Hira was talking about how he learned from someone at a coffee shop. Was it a coffee shop or at a hawker store?
Yeah, hawker center. Hawker
Yeah, a
center.
hawker
This
center.
old lady was sitting there and she was telling me about her life story, and she was a resident there. So she said, "Oh, this didn't exist. There's a rubber estate here. Last time there was a kway teow man there. His kway teow was better, but he's died. He's dead now. Just
Yeah,
normal stories." And I looked at her as a book. She was
yeah,
a living book, and she
yeah.
was telling me stories. I didn't need to read it. I just listened. It was so interesting. I bought her a cup of coffee. She was happy. She started talking a little bit more. But I suppose she also wanted some company, and I
Yeah.
gave her. I was a good listener, so she was happy.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about books, right? Okay, so anyone who knows Hira knows that he's like this whole bank of information and knowledge and wealth of experience, and that shows in his books. Okay, he's got like 4, 5, 6 books. Let me also share it. Uh, yeah, for those of you who want to check out his books, you can go to hira.com.my. I have the direct link. I'll show that in a while, and also follow him on LinkedIn. Just a shout out to everyone. Hi everyone. If you just join us, we are with Heera Singh, and we're going deeper into his writing. So you have quite the flair, Hira, when you write. So
Yeah.
I say very, very talented. You can speak, you motivate people, you train people, and you write. Like that's like goal, the combination of that, right? Not mostly, like people can write, but they can't speak, or they speak and they don't write so well. And he's got like all this,
So,
and now I found out that he's from the army, so he's got the discipline part. Because a lot of writers, the creative part, like if you
yeah.
see my room right now, you know so it's like you have the flair with the written word. You've authored books. You're a best-selling author. You just came out with a book recently, the second edition of your HR
Yes.
documentation book.
This
When
book,
did it all start? Like, yeah, show us the book. You have it? Yeah, that's the human resource documentation book.
650 pages.
Yeah. Now that I'm in L&D, I need that.
Okay.
I've just joined learning and development,
Oh,
company learning and development. I left education. So This
Oh,
is
okay.
something I definitely need in order to understand, right, where he's coming from. So, you guys, if you want to check out his book, the website is there, hira.com.my/books. All his books are there. You can directly get it from his site if you want to purchase his books. And it comes with, you just have to go through LinkedIn. Everyone is raving about his book and how useful it is and informative and how everyone needs to have one. So I won't talk further about that because I think, but going back to your writing, how did you start writing? And I mean, were you just born with that gift? Like you just wrote and you just were good at it? Because you've got quite a flair.
Well, I tell you, I'll credit this writing flair from firstly my language skills because
Mm-hmm.
when I was young, I mean, a schoolboy and so on, I still remember I went through all the Enid Blyton books. All, I mean, I would think all Famous Five and so on. And then I went to this books, Earl Stanley Gardner. He wrote the Perry Mason lawyer books, mysteries and so on. I used to read, I mean, I was a voracious reader. And I suppose
Mm-hmm.
my language skills built up. So to write, you need what do you call this language skills as a base. And I must say, in school and so on, when it came to essays and so on, I used to do very well. In fact, I won a few competitions within the school, like best essay and so on. So I suppose it was there from young. But after that, when I joined the army, I didn't write much because there was
Mm,
no
yeah.
platform, there was no need, and so on. But when I came back to the corporate world, then writing came back again. That I had to write. And for example, when I came back from the UK after I finished my masters and so on, I wanted to look for a job. Now, one of the ways I thought I could build up my credibility was the fact that if I could write articles in the New Straits Times or any other English media, because
Yeah.
once people read, people say, "Hey, this guy is knowledgeable." So I started writing and then read about HR and things because that was my job, my vocation, and so on. And people started to read. People contacted me by email because I put my email there and so on.
Mm,
I like your points. I like your article. Oh, by the way, do you conduct any training of this sort and so on? So that was how the training started. Training site started also.
ah.
Yeah. But anyway, coming back to this writing and so on. For example, this book. Yeah, I just want to say, when I was in HR, I joined the normal. At one time, it was in email. We had these email groups and so on HR, so we could go there and say, "Listen, I got a guy who's an MC. Always, how do I take disciplinary action against and so on." I found out that every time somebody would go, say, "Does anybody have a document in relation to succession plan? My boss wants me to do a succession plan, but I don't know how." And then somebody would say, "Okay, I've got one. You can write to me personally." And immediately you will see 100 other people say, "PM me, PM me, PM me," and things like that. And then I realized there was a big need for
Need.
documentation. And let me tell you this, Cheryl, because in HR, documentation plays a
It's
critical role
important,
because you do it
definitely.
with us. I mean, if I give you a job, I've got to give you a letter of offer and you
Correct.
sign so that there will not be any arguments in relation to your benefit, salary, whatever, and so on. If you are not performing, I give you a performance improvement plan. It has to be
Mm,
in black and white. Otherwise,
everything,
shit
yeah. Black and white.
happen. Yeah. So everything has to be in black and white. We don't like it, but we have to. So my view is why reinvent the wheel? So if you buy, for example, this book, everything is inside there, performance management, appraisals, whatever. All you need to do is take the document, change a little bit here and there, and you've got a new document which adheres to Malaysian legislation. And I think that's very, very important. But just on the sidetrack, since you talk about books, this is the book I'm very proud of.
Ah, yes, I think I saw it when it was in the draft stage.
Why I'm proud? A, it was done during COVID. I had nothing to do. Training was at a minimum. So I
Yeah,
had lots of
yeah.
free time. I wrote it. But more important, not only did I write, I designed and did everything from A to Z. And you can see this book is a very colorful book. Uh,
Yes,
I mean, a book that Malaysian readers would like. It's not text. And you can see major
context.
propaganda is also here.
Major Prabhakaran.
And you know why? Because I wanted to Malaysianize my book. Instead of
Thank you.
having
Orang
Caucasian
Bugis.
speakers, but I had to use Caucasian speakers some of the
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah.
But at the same time, see, for example, this is Raymond Poon from
Ah,
Max. So I went to some Malaysian speakers, trainers, and said, guys, would you like, can I get a photograph of you, a good photograph?
wow.
Because I want to insert it. So in that sense, it's a little bit Malaysianized and so on. And I did from A to Z, and I'm very proud because usually you do the text, but you send it to somebody else, graphic designer, to design the pages, design the covers, and things like that. But after saying that, again, learning Cheryl, I did it on Canva. So I went to this app, learned how to use it, and then wrote this book in that particular app.
Agility, humility. That is the key ingredient that I keep on hearing. Is always willing to learn something new and build up and see. There's a book from it.
Yeah, yeah, and taking risks. I mean,
Yeah.
you write a book. That's very little risk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
designing, taking that risk to design and so on, and being confident enough to self-publish it. No,
Yeah.
that's what. But
Yeah.
when you
Definitely.
say-
Yeah, I mean, you have to take risks. We are so afraid of failing, but how would you know if you would succeed if you don't even try, right?
exactly, and one more. This is the Bahasa Malaysia version of that
Yeah.
book. Now, this was very, very difficult, Cheryl, because a lot of it was out of my control because my Bahasa is good, but not that writing good. So
Mm,
I had to get somebody to translate it. But the problem is when you translate from English to Bahasa, there's always problems because
yeah.
when you directly translate it, it goes out of context.
Yeah, you need to have context, correct?
Yes. And then there are some words, like for example, we use in English, we say a domestic inquiry. But in Bahasa, there's no equivalent. And the trouble is when you go to one person, an expert in Bahasa, and you ask him, he says, oh, perbicaraan dalaman, he says. Okay, fine. I go to another expert, he
This
says,
is
no, it's something else. So I had a lot of problems with this book, and I coined a lot of terms on my own, and I hope the HR fraternity will use that as the Bahasa
yeah, yeah,
equivalent and so on. So this was
yeah.
a huge big risk, but you need a Bahasa version also, and this is the Bahasa version.
Definitely. When I was in university, when we were in USM, right, and we were studying communication, you won't believe we have books. There are no books in. I mean, there's hardly any books in Malay for my field. Okay, when I was studying, this was back in 2002, 2003. And
Mhm.
any book that we did have in Malay was directly translated. And as you know,
Mhm.
what happens with directly translated books.
Yeah,
But our
true.
exams were in Malay.
Mhm. Oh,
And we
okay.
studied mostly in English, like all our references were in English. So imagine sitting in a 3 hour exam and translating everything. Most of my exam papers were inverted commas, to be honest, because how do you think and we need more books in bahasa, to be honest, we
Exactly,
need
exactly. Yeah,
we need
exactly.
it's definitely a necessity. So to all the book writers out there, please try. I know it's hard,
Yeah.
as Hira said, it's very hard, but try because it's really important if you want to build. I mean, we speak in Malay.
Oh,
You
I
should
don't have
try.
it here, but just for information, an Indonesian company saw me and asked me that they told me that they wanted to translate my leadership book into Bahasa
Indonesia.
Indonesia, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we came to an agreement about profit sharing and so on. So now it's being sold there.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping for somebody in Malaysia to come and see me
there's a
and talk.
lot of Indonesian authored books writing. They have really expanded well, and I think Malaysia has the potential of doing that as
Yeah,
well.
true, very true, very
Yeah,
true. And I
that's
think it's
amazing.
important because when I write about management
Yeah,
and during my training and so on, I say uh, most of the books we read about leadership management are from the West. Nothing wrong; they are brilliant books,
definitely
but they have one flaw, and that is the Western cultural
correct.
concepts
Not
being brought
localized.
to their concepts. So yeah, so it's not localized. So some of these concepts, we bring it here, we practice it. It's not so effective. For example, in the West, they're very confrontational. If
Mm.
they with you, Cheryl, becomes this fairly strict. Cheryl, where's my report? I'm not happy. Come on, I need that. I mean, they'll be confrontational. They tell you straight. Whereas in Malaysia, we're always indirect. We send them a WhatsApp message, or
Indirectly.
we never go face to face direct and so on. So we've got to manage and also lead
Yeah.
according to our culture also. We can't borrow Western culture and bring it here. So it will not be successful.
Definitely, definitely. I want to talk about something because you write quite extensively on it, right? So, and I'm sure a lot of HR people as well have this in their mind, uh, performance appraisals. And you
Yeah.
talked about, the in and out of it. And do you think, like, based on your experience, is there a better way of us doing that and doing away with performance appraisals completely and bringing something new that can really, like, measure performance?
You're asking a very difficult question, Cheryl. Let me start with some basis. Let me tell you this, the performance appraisal is probably the most difficult uh, task that any superior will have to do.
Definitely.
Let's start with that, especially for the bad ones. I mean, if you're good and I appraise you well, no problems.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes very emotional because it's linked to your reward system. So if
Mm,
I gave you, for example, 8, 8, 9, 8, 9, and 1 out of 10, you get 8, 9, and so on, you may get a 3 months bonus. So you're
correct.
happy. If this person, and I'm being very objective, I think he only deserves 4, 3, 4, 3, or 3, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, which means he will only be entitled to 1 month's bonus. Suddenly, it's not about the appraisal, it's about the rewards. He's thinking
Mm,
about the fact that now I have deprived him of 2 months of bonus, which can be a lot of money. So you see, it's very emotional. And if you go to any company and you ask everybody, put up your hands. All those who are good workers, employees, put up your hands. The whole company will put up their hands. Nobody will say they're bad employees.
oh, bad worker. Yeah.
But there are bad employees. They are mediocre, they are average, they are also high performers. The appraisals are there not for fun because A, it's linked to the reward. So we want to know who to reward, who to give lesser rewards, and so on. Number two, who to develop, who to train, and so on. Number
Mm,
three, who to be part of the succession plan. So Cheryl, if you're doing well, then we've got to look at you and say, she's been doing very well for the last 3 years. Perhaps we should start thinking about future appointments for her. How
correct.
high can she go up the structure, and so on. So there are very good reasons why we want to have performance appraisals. But
Mm,
the problem is we don't have what we call a better alternative. However, there are companies in America, I know, some prominent companies who have done away with what you call this performance appraisal.
appraisals.
I wish I could go there to find out what the effect is and so on.
Mm,
Once you throw away performance appraisals, then I'm wondering how they decide who gets more and who gets less and so on. Because the moment, Cheryl, you know you got 3 months, and I know you got 3 months, but I got 1 month, suddenly everything becomes not so rosy and so on. There's another system called the 360-degree system, which means
the feedback.
I'm
Yeah.
your boss. Yeah, I'm your boss. You are my subordinate. Let's say I've got 5 subordinates, and
Correct.
I have 10 peers, all the other managers, for example. So all of you will, in secret or confidentially, digitally, and so on, appraise me. So which means I am now being looked at not only from a subordinate's perspective, but also from a peer's perspective and also a
Mm-hmm.
superior's perspective. So
Yeah.
you, if I may say so, a more all-round appraisal.
More holistic. Yeah.
But it also still has its flaws, and that's
Yeah.
why it's not been very popular. I did it in my old company, but we did it more for development. And you'll be surprised, Cheryl, the moment we say it's for development, nothing to do with your bonus and your salary increase, everybody was happy. Even you gave them 3 or 4, they were happy because it had no implications except that we will speak to them about how they can upgrade it, what can be
Mm,
developed, what training they can go, and so on. So, to put a long story short, appraisals are what I call a necessary evil in
Necessary
organization.
evil.
Yeah. We don't like it,
Yeah,
but we
yeah,
have an alternative,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we just still learn to live with this emotional
Yeah,
exercise.
I think the emotional part is what makes it difficult because sometimes it can be very subjective. So
Exactly.
if emotions take over, then the facts are all put aside and go like, I don't like your face.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
you know,
then you have a problem there.
but
Yeah.
that's also part of life. I mean, sometimes there are people who don't like your face. I mean, you know what I mean? And
Face problem.
that influences them. So which means you're being appraised on your face rather than on your performance. And then there are people, for example, you were in university, for example. There are
Yeah,
some professors who are very strict.
yeah,
They are
yeah.
naturally strict with their marks. There are some who are generous. So I remember during my university days, some assignments we could choose. And who do we choose? The ones
Choose
who
the
were generous
easiest
with
one.
the. And superiors are like that. Some are very strict. So if you get a 5 out of 10 from this particular superior, you are really good. To get 5
Yeah,
is.
yeah. You know
Whereas
that
the
you're good.
other person, if you had gone to the other person, he would have given you a 9.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So,
It's true. It's true. It happens to me as well. When it comes to final year projects, when I used to be in the university, all the students shy away from me because they know for me quality is very important. I don't simply give good marks. They go to some lectures because they know they will easily score an A. And
exactly.
for some people, they don't care about as long as they get the marks. They don't care about the quality that comes with it. And similar with me, when I was in university, I took my professor that I know it's really hard to get marks from him, and he probably will be very tough on me. But I know if I mention to someone in that field, I say, oh, so Prof. Zarum was my supervisor. Immediately, the respect for me goes like, because his credibility is like at that level, it doesn't matter what marks I got. They're like, oh, you're his student. Okay. You know?
It's true.
So yeah,
True.
like you said, because of that, there's always that, but well, it's life
So,
as you said.
back to appraisals, lots of flaws. It's an imperfect tool,
Yeah.
but we still have to use it because there's no, if I may use the word, better tool. Asset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think we
Hopefully,
will have,
hopefully
because
one day there'll be a better tool or someone will come up with something and innovate uh, to something that will help because all tools have their flaws for the moment, but who knows, right?
true.
There's always
Yeah.
hope. So another two things I want to talk about, because time is very limited. We only have
Mhm.
like, we're speaking for like 40 minutes already. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to talk about you talked about putting oil on your own motivational flame, which is basically what the show is all about, right? It's not just about listening to people, but how do you find that spark within you? Can you talk to us a bit about that? Because I think a lot of people, especially young people, find that very difficult to be motivated on your own. Like, how do you put oil on your own motivational flame?
Good. Good question, Cheryl. I always say this here. The principle number one about motivation is simple. Before you learn to motivate other people, you have to be motivated yourself. If you're not motivated, how can you motivate other people?
Correct.
And where does your motivation come? It has to come from self motivation, which means you have to find ways to motivate yourself on a regular basis, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my case, I'll tell you little things, but they play a huge role when you combine them, a huge role. For example, in my car, I always take time to listen to Jim Rohn or Brian Tracy and so on. At least for 15, 20 minutes. Or I go to Spotify and I want to know about the situation in Ukraine, for example.
Mm,
So these are things that I like to listen and it lifts me up a little bit.
yeah.
And then I like to go to YouTube. I like to watch not only inspirational movies, but sometimes little things like you watch about children being given their first puppies. And it doesn't suddenly motivate me, but you sit down there, you smile at yourself, and you look at it,
Warm
and
and
you feel,
fuzzy
oh,
inside.
yeah, warm and fuzzy, yeah, and those are good things for your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never watched a tape like that and been angry. No, I've never. So it definitely does good things to me.
It feeds your
I like
soul, right? What you listen
that.
to feeds your soul.
You're right. Feeds your soul, and you can't see it, but it's there, and you need it. I like to reward myself. Every once in a while, I'll go for a good meal with my children, or even just alone. I'll go and have a good meal and so on. I think we've got to learn to reward ourselves every once in a while, because if we cannot reward ourselves, then it's like we're looking down on ourselves. We've got to give ourselves a pat on the back every once in a while, also. And this is part of what I call self motivation. Listen to music that you like. I have some music, for example, let's say there's a latest song and I like that song very much. I actually in my Spotify, my account, I'll download that song 10 times. So it's after that song, the same song for 10 times in a row, it'll
It's
play.
in your head,
I,
right?
yeah, I like it. So it just makes me feel good and so. I don't want to go deeper into it and so, but I think
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, Cheryl. We've got to learn to self-motivate, to find things that
Yeah.
challenge us. Say, listen, I want to finish this book by this date. I usually put deadlines. I never always meet my deadlines, but I'll tell you one thing deadlines do. It creates that sense of urgency in me, and I do more work than normal just to try to meet that deadline. And I think that's important because procrastination is something that all of us suffer from, including me.
Mm.
But you must find some ways to overcome that problem, and deadlines are a very good way to overcome and so on. So um, we've got to find. I mean, the other thing I like to watch is, let's say, America's Got Talent. Some of the people who got the golden buzzer,
Yeah.
the songs that they sing, like Cody, the boy who is slightly disabled, but he goes there and he sings, he wins the competition and so on. Or there's one video I was watching about 2 months ago. This postman in Pakistan, he's blind, but he's a postman. He goes in his village, he goes to houses, but he's so used to it that he knows the route by heart. But I tell myself, when I sit there watching him, how lucky I am that I don't have to do
Yeah.
what he is doing. But at the same time, I tell myself, if he can do that, there are many things that I can also do, if not better. And you need that kind of inspiration for yourself also.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's so important. And we've got only 7 minutes left. So I wanna end with talking a little bit about giving back to the community and doing those kind of work. And I think this is something I'm familiar with because my roommate is actually Punjabi and she does a lot of I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Seva, is it Seva?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah. So maybe
Well,
maybe you can share with us a little bit about what Seva is and that experience of that and why you do it and why is it important for other people to find maybe different avenues where they can also do a form of Seva as well.
okay, a very good question. I'm not a very, if I may say so, a religious person. No, I'm not. But I believe in the concept of seva. Basically, it's volunteering your service for the good of society without any payment or any form of gratuity or whatever. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, a simple thing like writing this book is, to a certain extent, a form of sewa because you have assisted the HR fraternity in Malaysia by having this book. Yes, they have to pay to get this book, for example, but it makes their job so much easier. So this
Easier.
is only one example. Every year in May, the third week of May, in Malacca, there's Gurdwara, there's the temple there. They have got a huge 3-day festival and so on. And I'll tell you, Cheryl, you go there every year without fail. You'll see Heera Singh plonk there, doing, dirtying my hands and doing work, community service and so on, without any thought for any kind of money or anything from God, nothing. It's just, I just feel I want to contribute to society. I want to contribute to the festival, make it better. But the most important thing is I feel good inside. I feel I have done my part for society. I have done something good for society. And that is something that's really, really good. You feel good about yourself and so on. So seva is there are many ways. For example, I also do, for example, teachers. I give motivational talks to teachers free of charge, because I say if teachers do their jobs well, then the future of this country will be in good hands,
Exactly.
because they are the teachers. And I need to motivate these people and so on. At the same time, children, I do it for some, like say, Rotary Club, and so they invite me, and I give talks to these children and so on, inspire them to say that in this world, nothing is impossible. It's all
Mm,
in whether you
on your
want to
head.
be there or you don't want to be there. I mean, I'm not saying that after my talk, everybody is going to be a doctor or but start them on the right note and just to inspire them to say that anything is possible in this world and so on. Don't think that you are not going to be successful only because of your humble background or your father is a rubber tapper and so on. Anybody can go out there if only you take some effort, you make the conscious decision to want to be better and so on. So this is the concept of Seva, and I actually wrote 2 articles on Seva. And just for information, bringing management into it, this festival in Malacca, at peak times, you have about 10,000 people there. And yet, there is no manager, there's no CEO, nothing. The food gets cooked, the food gets served, the plates are washed, nobody shouts orders, nothing. And yet, everybody silently
There's no
just
rewards and recognition,
nothing. Yeah, no
no
reward, nobody
appraisal.
complains, nothing. And yet, like clockwork, everything moves. And I think in management, we can go there to listen, because I was telling them, if this was a corporate organization and they were tasked to organize this, there would have been at least 30 meetings prior to the festival, just meetings itself. In this case, there was no meeting, nothing. And you know what? Volunteers, at the most, sometimes yes, they'll say, okay, we need volunteers to go to the back to wash the plates and so on. And you see some people quickly going there and so on. Otherwise, everybody will go to the things that you like to do. Some people just want to serve food, which is fine. Some people want to, what you call, carry the plates. After washing, you've got to bring it to the place where you serve people and so on. So you do what you like, and you're contributing to the whole festival. That's a great form of service.
But that's what businesses were all about in the beginning, right? It was helping people solve problems. It was
Yep.
helping people with something, and it was very purposeful. And I
Exactly.
guess Seva is intent, right? Everyone has that same intent. They want to help.
Yep. But at the same time, I must say we all help, but with a little bit of hope that God will see us and say, okay, I'll reward him also.
So yeah, it's from the top. There's that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're all like that. We're humans. So, when we
yeah.
do something,
Definitely, definitely.
well,
No
God
worldly rewards, lah. Not
exactly.
worldly rewards, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but then I remember I heard this priest was talking about this. You want worldly rewards. He says, the fact that you are healthy now and you can come for this, isn't that reward enough? And then suddenly
Yeah.
I looked at it from a different perspective. What he's saying is very true.
Yeah,
We
need to
think
appreciate the little things.
we want money to drop on our laps. But we are already lucky in the sense we've got 3 meals a day, we are healthy. I can engage in a conversation with you today like this and so on. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate.
Very, very. So as we end today, can you tell us what do you think for those who are listening in, uh, or those who are watching the recording later on? What is one thing you would like someone to take from this discussion, this chit chat that we had? This one thing they could take. What would it be?
You're asking me very difficult questions. I've got so many things actually I want to say, but I think like this. Let me put it this way. I think be humble. Be humble enough to want to learn to become better. Yeah, you can learn from everybody, from that lady in the food court to Cheryl Witha to Andreas Dawn to my children. You can learn from everybody. Always be willing to learn, and you will always become better. So be a better Hira today than I was yesterday. And if you follow just that, that'll be good enough. But one more thing which I also like to live my philosophy: make somebody's day every day. I say again, make somebody's day every day. That's it. I was having, for example, 2 days ago, I was doing training. I was in an Indian shop having thosai and so on. And I saw this very old couple sitting down and they were having thosai and so on. And I went to the guy when he came for a bill. I said, I'll pay for that table also. And he took the money and so on. But I went to the table just to tell them, listen, I paid. So I don't want them to be double charged. But I
Mm.
must say, they didn't say thank you, you're kind, hug me. No, they were actually perplexed. Like, why is this guy paying? Must be
What is
something
up? Why is
going
he paying for our food?
on. But then I said, it's okay. I know. If they don't know, it doesn't matter. But I've just, in a sense, made their day, and it has made my day fun. That's all.
True, true, very true. Thank you so much. It's amazing. You said yes, and thank you for humoring me and talking to me and sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. Actually, I got so much more that I want to ask you about, especially in terms of your writing, the BOMO accountability, the being busy. There's so many other elements. Maybe we'll bring you back another day and maybe focus more on the topical stuff and talk about those things. But like Hira said, make somebody's day better every day. All right, be humble, open to learn, to become a better you. And I'll see everyone most probably on the 22nd of September with Master Suhu, or some of us call him Guruji. So we can talk more and kupas his journey instead. So thank you very much, Hira. Thanks for being here. I will
Thanks,
see you backstage. Good
thanks,
night,
Cheryl. Thank you
everyone.
so much. Thank you.
Bye.